art can mean different things to different people. For me, it's all about the joy of creating. So if you draw, paint, write, dance, sing, craft, play air guitar, or even sculpt using nothing but mashed potatoes, consider yourself an artist and join the conversation. For the next half hour, meet the artist, learn about their inspiration, and enjoy the beauty of creativity. Welcome to Art Talk with John Cole, Artist. Well, good evening, everyone. It's John Cole, Artist, and today is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. And boy, I tell you, we've got an amazing show tonight. We're doing something that I never thought we would be doing. Number one, we're going to have two guests on simultaneously, which we haven't done yet. And number two, we're going to be doing a live reading. And of all the people that asked to be read this evening by Christine Cole, who is an intuitive reader and artist, Christina Blue's name jumped out at me. So Christina, I wanted to welcome you to Art Talk. And I just wanted to talk a little bit before Christine gets on. So just want to let everybody know how this is going to work today. Maybe I should start with that. So Christina's going to give us a little bit of background on maybe why she's interested in getting a reading. And then Christine is going to come on in about 5 minutes. Now, Christine has no idea that you're my guest, which I think makes it kind of exciting. And all she has is the name of a loved one. So why don't we talk a little bit about that? So first of all, Christina, how are you tonight?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. It's good to see you.
Oh, it's good to be seen. Thank you.
And I'm really excited. I was really excited when I found out that I was picked. Mm-hmm. It's pretty exciting because Christina. Now I'm getting my name and hers confused. Christina is such an amazing artist, and she and I have done a few things before, just reading each other's animals and things like that. But to have her do this, where she's reading a loved one that's passed and doing the painting that's come from that is on such another level. And I'm just really excited to be able to be a part of it.
Well, and I know she's excited as well, even though she doesn't know it's you. So again, it's going to be really interesting. So yeah, when you first, when I saw your name pop up there, and again, this isn't to slight anybody else. I had to make a decision, and again, your name just seemed to jump out at me. And I think originally you had suggested your mother, right?
Yeah. So when I read your post asking who would be interested, and I immediately thought of my mother. I adored my mother, and she passed about 12 years ago, I think. And so I wrote her name down. And that's been 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Right.
And so when you contacted me more recently and said that I was picked, a couple of days after that, just sort of out of nowhere, I thought about my father and my brother both. And I hadn't been thinking about the broadcast or anything, so I thought it may have been sort of a guided moment that they came up. And they both have the same name, Senior and Junior. And I would love to hear from either or both of them. My father and I didn't have a great relationship.
Right.
And so there may be some things there that would clean that up or a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then my brother was wild and crazy, and I adored him. He just he was gay, and this was 80s, and he got AIDS and wasn't alive at a time that they could really do much about it.
Right.
But he was an artist. Any kind of medium you can think of, he dabbled in, and I always wonder what he would be doing today. So, and I know you said you gave Christine just the name.
Right. And what was his name?
It's Raymond Paul Borgi.
Okay.
And so it'll be interesting to see who comes through.
Right. Yeah, folks. So we did, and this isn't to throw Christine, who's doing the reading, off, but I thought it would be interesting since they both share the same name to just
Mhm.
give her the name. So um, when we talked before the show, one of the things that we addressed was a lot of times when folks receive information, either one of two things is going to happen. It's going to strike you right away, like, oh my heavens, that's who this is, or it's going to be like, oh boy, I don't know if that really fits. And a lot of times when that second part comes up, it doesn't really fit. Folks afterwards will make a connection with, oh, I forgot about this or that. So what I guess I'm saying is that, with this particular process, we don't know if everything's going to strike right away, but 99.999% of the time, um, the folks that get readings from Christine, it does set with them, if not immediately after. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this goes. Now, I can see that Christine right now is in the waiting room. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on the screen. Now, folks, I know I see a couple of you are already making comments, and I really appreciate that. But what we're going to do is we're going to wait until after the reading, and then I'll go through the comments. And if you have questions, I ask that you ask them, because this is such a fascinating topic. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how the art of this communication actually works. So with no further ado, Christina, I'm going to bring Christine on. So here we go. Hey, Christine, how are you?
Hi, beautiful souls. How are you?
Very well. So you remember Christina, right?
Yes, it's been too long, my friend.
Yeah.
Far too long.
So what I was explaining is that what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to turn it over to you, Christine, because I know that I didn't give you the name until about 15 minutes before the broadcast started. You had no idea who you were going to be reading for. And trust me when I say, although Christine and I share the same house because we're married, I tried, well, I didn't even try. I made sure that nobody knew what was going on. As much as she knew was a whole bunch of people had said, I want to participate. So she had no idea that it would be Christina. And of course, she doesn't know anything correct about the name that we provided, Christina. Okay, so Christine, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. And again, Christina, if you want to comment during, by all means do so. I'd like this to be kind of a conversation. And then afterwards, we'll see how it went. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you, Christine. Thanks.
Thank you. Hi, Christina. How are you?
I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. I'm so surprised because, like he said, I didn't even know who signed up for it. I wasn't looking at any of it. So I'm so happy to see you. So when I first connected, I definitely got a sense of instant peace. And the image that was given to me was this fountain. I don't know if you can see it. So it was like a very the what comes to mind for me is like a very Tuscan kind of feel, a very like old world type feeling. And that's why I got the yellows, and it's that very rustic feel. And like this fountain was just shooting up and overflowing, and it was very peaceful. Now, the first thing that came after that was almost like it was a Mexican feel. Like I was getting images of, like on I Love Lucy, when they go back to Cuba with the big hat sitting in the chair, kind of leaning up against the wall kind of feel. But then Tuscan kept coming back in too at the same time. So I was kind of getting both images. Does any of that make sense?
So first, I should probably tell you, there's two Ray Borges.
Okay.
Junior and senior.
Okay.
So my father, who passed probably 12 years ago, and he was born in 1921. So and this kind of feels more like my brother, who passed in maybe 1990. Okay. I think he was maybe 35, but he was an artist. And I explained to John that he was gay. He did get AIDS at a time when that was not survivable.
Mhm.
And that feels like him coming through.
Okay.
Um,
Did he have anything with the back of the head, like right here? Because I was getting this sharp pain, almost like a stroke or something. Something with the back of the head, almost like something happened that almost paralyzed his right side.
I think that was probably after he had AIDS, and it was the it's like Kaposi sarcoma. A lot of them would get the spots on their skin and everything. He actually had it internally, and it was probably in his brain and everything too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably what that was. But he loved to travel and things like that. So I'm thinking that that's him. And the fountain was just his kind of his flamboyant personality, I think.
And the other image that I was getting, I kept getting like this like old fashioned like or this like 1950s kind of like carnival kind of scene. And it was like the strong man with the big curly mustache and he was like lifting the barbells. And so I don't know if there was something related to the carnival or if he had some sort of connection to that, but that's the image that he was showing me.
I'm trying to decide if that's, I almost feel like both of them are there. And kind of felt like, my dad carried a lot of weight. But that was what he was supposed to do. That's how he was raised, and that's how whatever. I mean, it kind of feels like they're both there. I don't know if that makes sense to you with what you're getting.
It does make sense because I keep getting two different sets of images that don't seem to be connected. Like I said, like one was I'm getting Tuscany, the other one I'm getting the Mexican, and then I'm getting the carnival, and then it's like everything's like it's almost like seeing one of those those wheels that they would put pictures on and then they would spin it
Yeah.
and then it would make it almost like a carousel and you'd see the horse go up and down. That's kind of what I'm getting.
I'm also wondering too, so I didn't grow up with him. So most of my siblings are quite a bit older. So he was 13 or 14 years older than me. So when I was little, that made him, I was 5 by the time he was out of the house and he was already gone. So
Right.
a lot of the stuff growing up, I wasn't really a part of. And I think that a lot of, some of the stuff that they did, also when you said carnival, I know that because I have 4 siblings and I know that the 4 of them went and did, went to the World's Fair and went to those things. And that was kind of also something that I was getting because it was almost like that family got raised and then I came along. But I think that was when the family felt really close, maybe. It was a unit.
I feel like he had a special connection or a special fondness for you. It's like, I may not have been there, but you were always with me. Like like I see this like light connection between your two hearts. And it's like he carried you with him always.
That's really nice to hear. We loved each other, but we clashed a lot. He pushed my buttons, so we probably pushed each other's buttons, but he was good at pushing buttons. But yeah, when I was old enough to spend time with him, because like I said, he was already gone by the time I was little from the house mostly, and then he moved to a different city and then across the country, but I spent time with him when I could. But yeah, we love each other a lot, but there was always a little bit of I love you. You drive me crazy. Get away from me.
I feel like that was his way of trying to build you up. Like it was his way. It's almost like putting that diamond, that coal under
In the
pressure,
future.
to create that diamond. So I feel like that was his way of doing that. And this may sound weird, but I heard my cute little Sputnik or my little Spunky or something like that. My little Sputnik. He said he sees you, he watches you, and he guides you. He's not. It's like he's there to inspire you. Does that make sense? Do you like feel his presence around when you're
Sometimes, yeah. And he comes through in my dreams a lot. I'm like, still? This has been 1990 or so since he passed, so it's been a minute. And he still is in my dreams. But I was actually wondering if, like, I've been inspired to do different, I want to say crafty things. And I kind of always wonder if that's him coming through. I would
Yes.
love to be an artist, but I'm not.
He said, yes, you are.
Unless you talk to John, then maybe I'm an artist. But like right now, I've lately been inspired to do several things with different kinds of media, and I was actually have been wondering if he's around for that, because I know he'd love it.
That's his way of talking to you. And he's like, when he's in your dreams, he's like, you're not fully paying attention to what the message he's trying to give you. He's like, you're there, but you're not quite there. It's almost like, yeah, okay, I hear you, whatever, blah, 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 kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he is there inspiring you to do that art, because he's like, you're so much more than you give yourself credit for. He's like, you're at such a level that is so profound and that is so life altering and changing for so many people, you just don't see it. Ooh, chills.
Yeah, I don't know how I would see that.
He sees it in you, and he's trying to inspire you to tap into that aspect of yourself. Chills.
That's exciting. That means a lot to me, really.
He's like, just quiet your mind and just listen and hear me and hear my guidance, hear my direction.
Okay. I'm going to try and do that more this week, especially. I have got a few projects that have been bouncing around in my back of my brain, so I'll see if he wants to pull them out with me.
It's like he's showing me you kind of like standing in water, and it's like up to your shoulders and just your head's above the water, and you're just kind of standing there. Like almost like your feet are stuck in the mud, and it's like holding you in that space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and this is why I brought the Kleenex, just in case.
No. He's like, there's so much fog in front of your face that you can't see what's right in front of you. Like that. Okay, so now he's showing me like you're on land, right? Your feet are still stuck in the mud, but you still have that water, and there's like this fog all around you. And if you could just like, and get rid of that fog and move it, you'll be able to see everything that is meant for you. Everything that's just literally right in front of you, waiting for you to accept and receive it.
Yeah, I really feel like, actually I felt like that for years, but the heaviness and being stuck. So I'm going to try and trust what he says. And I think if I can, do some crafting and try and, still myself and just tune into him and let go of everything else.
Mhm.
So it's not present at the same time because I don't see a way to, you carry something with you for so long, you don't see a way to not carry it with you. It's almost like this is just me. And so I don't know I can let it down. I don't know I can go away. So
He says it's all an illusion. He's like, it's as simple as just moving forward. It's as simple as taking that first step forward and trusting. Yes, it's going to be scary. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. But if you trust that he's there with you, supporting you, and you just keep taking those steps forward. Have you stopped your animal communication? You need to pick that up again. That's like your heart and soul. That helps you to connect to your heart and soul. I'm getting a lot of chills. But you need to reignite the animal communication because it brings you to that space of connecting to your higher self. And it lights you up. It gives you that it energizes you. It gives you that boost, that momentum. Does that make sense?
yeah, I know that if I'm going to do a reading, I do set everything aside and center myself and get everything aligned so that I can be in the best possible place to give the, it's like to do the best reading that you can do. And so without the impetus to do that for like, just to do that for myself, I don't even think to do it.
He's showing me like this line in it's almost like being at a sold out concert. There are so many animals out there waiting for you, needing you, calling out to you, saying, I need your help. I need your help to make these connections with my human, with my family. And some of them are in shelters. Some of them are with families. Some of them I feel like are on the street right now. And it's like they're sending their energy out, calling out to you like, we need you. He's showing me once you make that connection again, it's almost like, and I probably already said, it's like almost reigniting you, waking your soul up, waking up your spirit, because I can see this circle of energy, this white light just spinning around you, not in like a chaotic way, but in a flowing movement.
Because that's part of the being stuck in the mud. There's a stagnancy.
Right.
That I definitely feel.
And he says, you deserve that for yourself just as much as those animals and humans do. You are just as worthy and deserving of that sense of peace and groundedness and connectedness to yourself and to that higher power, however you associate with it, whether it's universe or God or whatever. He's here reminding you. He's here reminding you that this is meant for you. You are here in this world to do this work, not just for yourself, but for the rest of the world, because it's a ripple effect. It ripples out. You touch one soul, one spirit, and it ripples to so many others. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I needed to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions?
No.
All right. Well, you know what? That was powerful. And you know, what I'm going to walk away with this as the third party, watching this take place here is how strong, Christina, your spiritual team is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether or not it was your dad or your brother, a combination of both. Um, you've got people here in the present that care about you, and you have people on the other side that care about you. And I think, with what Christine was saying about the animal communications and you talking about these artistic, crafty projects, as an artist myself, and I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm sure it's the same thing. When you're involved doing an artistic project or you're doing the animal communication piece, you're really not you anymore. Or maybe I should instead say you're almost channeling something greater than you. Even if it's whether or not it's a painting or whether or not it's some other thing. There's something. It's almost like an experience, and I think that sounds to me like what your brother is saying to you, right? Is you are different from other people, yet you're the same, right? But
Yeah.
you have these talents and gifts that maybe need to be explored a little bit more, or as somebody else I know would say, you just need to pivot a little bit, and then things will blossom. I mean, that's kind of a weird word to use, but
And I think, you say it's almost like you're not you. And in some ways, I think it's almost like you're more you because you're not. For me, it's almost like you have all this radio chatter or something going on all the time. And if I'm doing a reading, I have to not have that. I have to make a space for that. And I think, if you really are in the midst of doing your art or something like that, so that takes focus and it's all one focus and you don't have all the extraneous noise.
Yeah, I like that definition much better than what I said. So thank you for that. I love that.
I think it's kind of both things, but maybe you're channeling yourself.
What you're doing is you're co-creating with your higher self. You're co-creating with the divine. So when you get into that space, you're tapping into that part of yourself that's real, that's your true essence. And your true essence is coming through you onto whatever it is that you're creating. Ooh, big chills. And that's true for the animal communication as well. So it's almost like I was feeling like your heart was opening up, and it looked to me almost like the Sacred Heart, how it has all the rays and it's all beautiful and bright. And I was getting that you're very angelic, and it's like doing the art seems to be, or how I'm interpreting it, are the steps, those small steps to take to get back into the animal communication, because it brings you back to that space. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I will bring up a couple comments. Megan Kidd said, "Hey friends, so excited for this."
Hey Megan.
Megan, I'm wearing your bracelet you made me.
That's awesome. Beth is on. She says, "Hello, creative souls."
Hey Beth.
Michelle Sullivan, wow, this is so powerful. And it really was. I mean,
thank you, Michelle.
This is a pretty amazing thing. And then Beth has a follow-up comment, very powerful, very healing. And I sure hope that it, to you, Christina, gave you a little more knowledge, perhaps, about yourself. And really, I think the fact that people may be gone in the physical world, but they're really never gone, and I think that that's something that some people strongly believe, others might be a little more skeptical, but I think the bottom line is believing that is an extremely powerful thing, and knowing that is even more powerful. And I don't have any doubts, and I think that what Christine was able to do was at least say, hey, you know what? You might feel him. You might think that you feel him while you're doing certain things or
Mhm.
think of him from time to time. But the fact of the matter is he's there,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Christine, do you have anything else? I actually, no, scratch that. Not, do you have anything else? I was just hoping that maybe you could explain to our audience a little bit about, how this process works for you. I think we might have talked about it a few weeks ago during the podcast that I had, because you were on earlier, but how does this work for you? You connecting up with basically just a name, because all we gave you was a name. How does that kind of work for you?
I really was able to start doing this work because of being in animal communication and learning how to connect with the essence of an animal or a human or any soul through telepathy. And I get a lot of imagery and feelings,
Hmm.
and that's why I do the initial sketch, because that always means something. Not always right away, but it's always going to be a representation of the communication that I was able to give to you and your loved one on the other side. And it's really just getting myself out of the way, my human side out of my brain, like Christina was talking about, connecting with my higher self and allowing my higher self to connect with that soul. And it's almost like these floodgates open for me, and all this information just starts coming in. Sometimes it's really quick and I'm like, "Ooh, you gotta slow down." And sometimes it just goes at a more easeful pace. I hope that answers your question.
It does. So when you and I knew this was going to happen. I mean, we just sped through that 30 minutes like nobody's business. But as far as your and this would be an interesting question to ask. When you do that initial sketch, like you had this Tuscan idea with this waterfall or fountain rather, right? Which again might not set perfectly with Christina at present.
It actually, I really resonate with fountains and waterfalls, which is interesting because I really am afraid of water in other circumstances.
Oh.
I've almost drowned so many times in this lifetime, I can't tell you, but I really love fountains and like little flowing creeks and
Okay.
waterfalls. So that, and it really helps me be centered. So that was a perfect, that was the perfect vision for that.
Yeah, it sounds like the imagery was designed to remind you of that.
So it's basically him giving me an image that she's going to connect with, so she knows that I'm connecting, sorry, chills, with her loved one. So this is so because she connects with fountains and flowing water, this is something that she's going to recognize and be like, "Oh, I love water." I didn't know I was talking to Christina today, and I didn't even know you liked fountains and flowing water even before now.
Yeah.
And this is why I didn't want someone that I knew, because I didn't want a lot of information in advance, because that way I knew this was more from the divine and I wouldn't question it, and I could trust the information. And that's why I asked for a name and a name only. That way I don't have any biases or anything. It's just strictly the connection with me and that soul. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Because if you know, I know at the readings, if you already know a person or animal a lot, you can kind of question this: is that me thinking that, or am I getting that, or is that me thinking that? Because, and me having been a vet tech, I sometimes have to double check myself. Is that me thinking as a vet tech about this issue, or is that something I'm being given? So that totally makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, well, in closing, there's two comments here from Michelle I'd like to put. The first one is, I think for me, it gives me hope as I continue on in life.
That's
And then
beautiful.
she says to be able to connect with those who are not now with me. And I think that it does. So I'm going to ask both of you, and Christina and I talked a little bit about this before we went live, but I would love to have you both on again, maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, to kind of see how you're feeling, Christina. And then of course, to see how your art progresses, Christine. I think that would be an amazing thing to see. Would you both be willing to do that? Maybe sometime in October, if that works?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I want to thank you both. Christine, thank you for taking the time to do this reading. And Christina, thank you for being here and being so vulnerable and authentic with us. I know it's a difficult thing to talk about sometimes, and sometimes I know it's difficult to hear things. But I think ultimately it's going to lead to an additional level of healing that I know we all need, and hopefully it's been a benefit to you.
And I just want to thank you, Christina, for being vulnerable and coming on here and allowing me to connect with your loved ones. And I am so sorry for your loss. Yep. And I love you very much.
And thank you so much I feel like my brother really pushed through so that you got my name, and we switched from my mother to another name, and I'm just really grateful to have you two beautiful souls to play with here.
No, thank you.
And I'm really grateful that I was able to do this, that you were able to do this for me.
Oh,
Even though it was a little bit scary, to be honest. I didn't want to get on here and start bawling, but you never know.
No, you held up well, Christina. So, so Christine, how would folks get a hold of you?
They can either email me at soulpainting72@gmail.com, or they can go to my website at noellechristine.com.
Awesome. All right, folks. Well, again, thank you very much. And for those listening live, I appreciate your comments. And for those that are listening to the replay or listening to the podcast on one of the major podcast networks, which I hope you are, that would be awesome. Thank you all for joining us. Next week, I'm going to have on Tabitha Robinson. She is a podcaster from Canada, and I had the pleasure of talking with her I want to say maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago. And I'm looking forward to having her on, and we're going to talk all about the art of podcasting because there's a lot to learn. So a couple last minute comments. Beth says, thank you all. Great broadcast. And Megan writes, Christine has done a reading for my family. So healing. So thank you, Megan. Thank you, Beth, Michelle, and everybody else watching. Until next time, talk to you next week. See you soon. Thank you so very much for joining me on the Art Talk podcast, where it's my goal to bring artists together to talk about their craft. If you'd like to join me for a conversation, please reach out via email at johncoleartist@gmail.com or by visiting my website at johnrobertcole.com. So until next time, keep crafting, painting, and inspiring others with your creativity. You make more of an impact than you know.